like to extend my welcome to all. Yeah, okay, well, there you are, Peter. Yeah. If you didn't say something, I would have missed you. But I'd like to extend my welcome to all of you here to share a Sunday morning with us, to worship together. This time I'm smart, I brought water. To share a lesson together, and of course, just sharing a worship experience with all of us. So, welcome to have all of you here, and I really hope, just so many of you, it's tough to have a chance to meet all of you, but now I got several announcements to make. One of them is, it's all have to do with education. There is these little sheets available. It's what I learned, and what we're doing is that we're sending to each of the kids in the Sunday school program. And you should ask them, or if you're the younger kids, the parents gonna have to help them to put down what they have learned this past year in Sunday school. And what we're doing is that we're collecting all of them, and we're gonna give them to the teachers. So it's a way to appreciate the teachers in our Sunday school program. So there's a deadline, obviously, right? We like to do the appreciation at the end of the school term, so it's going to be at the end of June. So they're available on the back table in the foyer, but also in the mail slot there on the bottom left. There's a whole stack in there. And so please take one or two if you know you're going to lose the other one. So then, yeah, oh, you got them there. Okay, we also hand them out at the Bible class this morning. So bring them back. You can bring them back and put them in the mail slot, or you can bring it back and give it to Jose, Sarita, or you can give it to Jason, or you can give it to myself, and we'll collate them. And the other thing is that we're now starting planning for the fall semester, which is September. I hate to say it, summer's not here. We're planning for the fall, but we have to plan for the semester. And I know that there are some teachers that weren't available before that are taking a kind of a little sabbatical. So we're now start looking for teachers and assistants signing up for the fall semesters. If you're available and you would like to help, please talk to Jason, Jose, or myself, and we'll start putting your name together. We're going to start putting those classes together for the fall. And one last thing is that for some of you that are teachers or want to be teachers, want to find out more about teaching, we have a couple of training days in this summer, July 5th or the 12th. One of the days we're going to pick a couple hours on Saturday morning. So I hope that you can come, and we're going to go through the curriculum with you, and so you get a much better sense of how to use the curriculum. So keep those in mind, okay, for those that are teachers or the people that would like to teach, want to learn something more about teaching. This morning, a journey of faith. It was a physical journey, horrific journey, by the way. Turned out to be a journey of faith, certainly for me and for all those that are involved. But just like, and sometime in the news when they tell you a terrible story at the beginning, they warn you, everybody is okay. So let me tell you this. At the end of the story, everyone is fine, everyone is safe. So thank God for that. But I want to share this with you because it happened to us a couple of weeks ago. And I want to share with you because I've been a Christian for a long time, before many of you were born. But even that, through this journey, I realized my faith is just not there. And I just need to continue to grow in my faith, in other aspects of my life. And so it's a big discovery turn off for me. And I'd like to share some of those lessons for you today because I think it's absolutely applicable to all of us. It started about 2 years ago. Started 2 years ago when my sister was diagnosed with the early Alzheimer's at 60 years old. And now her and the husband moved back to Hong Kong because the lower taxes. So they decided to move back numbers of years ago. And so when we heard this news, obviously we were upset. And then family members, Susan and I and others, we have two brothers in Toronto. My mom lives in Toronto with one of my brothers. So we would take turn go back just once a year at least to see our sister. And of course you see the decline, right? And so we want to spend more time with them. And so over the last couple of years, we have seen the decline coming. And then something happened, without getting all the details, something happened in around January timeframe when we realized that for a reason, her husband had left her alone in my mom's apartment. We didn't realize that, we didn't know that was coming. Not only he left her there, can you imagine that someone with dementia living alone, it can be a very dangerous thing. So she was living there alone by herself, and we found out that she was there by herself, we didn't know. And then we also found out that her husband had kept all her ID, her passport, a Canadian passport, Canadian ID, kept all those things. And so we weren't really sure exactly what was happening, although we have heard rumors, rumblings before that Susan and I offered to bring her sister back for treatment for Alzheimer's. He had always refused. And we didn't know why, but after we found out the reason he kept his travel document and wouldn't let her leave the country was because he claimed her as a tax deduction because of disability. So he had left the country, he would have got hit with this, we would lose the tax exemption. So really for money purpose, he kept her there. But anyway, so we decided we probably should go and find out what was happening to her because we were concerned. And so we decided we were all gonna go, and Mom decided to go a week ahead of us to find out really what's going on, and then the rest of us gonna follow to see what we can do. At that time, we were just to look for long-term care solution for her. That's what we thought. So we booked a ticket, plane tickets, and we booked 10 days. We thought 10 days, it probably enough time to find a long-term care arrangement. Well, my mom got there kind of mid-March, and what she told us was horrific. It was like, what are you saying, Mom, right? And she's saying because of her dementia, she was eating half-cooked food because she didn't know they're cooked or not cooked. She couldn't go shopping because she kept getting lost, and so all she got was these frozen dumplings, and she was kind of working off her inventory of frozen dumplings. Her personal hygiene was kind of out the window. And laundry, Mom felt that her clothes really felt funny. Well, she wasn't using laundry detergent to wash her clothes, she was using the fabric softener to wash her clothes. So there are things that my mom said the place was filthy and her living condition was just horrific. So every time I talked to my mom on the phone that week, she was just sobbing on the phone. So we knew that things were worse than what we thought. We got there on a Thursday night on the 26th of March. And Susan and I, we were fortunate, we got a hotel so we could go to the hotel. After a 16-hour flight, we went to the hotel and get some rest. But my brother, Michael, he was staying with my sister and my mom, so he got dumped right into a frying pan. He got off the plane, got there, and then he knew something was really terribly wrong because my sister was constantly in severe pain, and she was so painful, rolling on the floor, that sometimes she just took all her clothes off. She was in such severe pain. So Friday morning, we took her to the doctor, and the doctor took one look at her and admitted her to a hospital. And turned out that because of her living condition, she had an infection. And you can imagine that we didn't get there in time. I'm not exactly sure what would happen to her. So she was admitted to the hospital, and she stayed there for 2-3 days while we trying to figure out a long-term care solution. Really very difficult to find. Couldn't really get anything, but then we thought maybe there might be, I don't know what, to get her out of that scenario. So Monday morning, we booked an appointment with a lawyer that recommended, talked to the lawyer about options, even divorce, even table divorce, and he said, well, you can't really get a divorce because she's an incompetent person, and you can't really go through that. We talked about going to the police. Well, you can't really go to police because we're gonna leave in a few days. You're gonna just make her life even more difficult. And certainly for me, it was a shock at the lawyer's office because at that time I found out that my sister was describing how she was physically abused. And as an older brother, he's sitting there listening to her describe what was being done to her. It was horrific. So really, I think at the first time at the lawyer's office, that my decision was, this is not long-term care. We're not looking for long-term care. We have to get her out of there. Like, this has now become a rescue mission all of a sudden. This is Monday morning. We were getting on a plane, I think that's Sunday. So now it's like, how do we get her out of this scenario when she had no passport, she had no ID? There is no way, and her husband had took the key to the apartment from her, so she couldn't even go back to her apartment. And the whole time where her husband is trying to contact her, trying to call her, trying to see her, and we're trying to put them at bay and not let him see her, because we would start seeing these symptoms. I didn't know what it was because I have never met or dealt with domestic abuse, right? And she get into this, what I could only describe as PTSD, post-trauma stress disorder. She would get into this severe panic anytime her husband's name is mentioned. And I didn't know why that was, but now I knew why that was, why she would get into this severe panic every time she heard his name. So now we knew we had to get her out, right? So this is, and then the lawyer said, your only choice that you have is go to social services. Because when they hear the scenario, they have to do something. Because last thing they want to have her become a statistic. They don't want her to be a stat, and so they have to do something. So Tuesday morning, went to social services. And we met with the officers, I think 2 or 3 officers. Their conclusion was nothing they could do for us. And so now this is Tuesday afternoon. I still remember Tuesday, the 5 of us, my brother, me, Susan, my mom, and my sister, we were sitting in the lobby of social services. And I remember we looked at each other. That was the lowest point ever. It was no path forward. We couldn't see our way through. We didn't know what to do. The day before, we contacted the Canadian Embassy in Hong Kong. I wrote them a long message. Susan called them, and they sent them an emergency call to Ottawa, and they said, well, just go back to the embassy. But make an appointment. You can't come without an appointment. You have that appointment. We won't see you without an appointment. So here Tuesday afternoon, we were sitting there. What could we do? Nothing, right? So we were praying, and I don't even think we were looking at each other. We were just distraught. Then Susan said, first of all, Susan was going to come because she had another commitment on April 14th that she knew that she's going to be gone, so that she wouldn't be able to kind of recover quick enough. But she said, you know what, to support you, me, I will come and just be there for you. So this Tuesday afternoon, and Susan all of a sudden said, why don't we just go to the Canadian Embassy? I said, Susan, they already told us, don't come. We don't have an appointment, don't come. She said, well, what have we got to lose? I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't do things like that, you know what I mean? I just don't do things like that. I don't show up uninvited and unannounced anything. What do I have to lose? So all 5 of us showed up, right? We all went in, and the security guard was very good at his job. He shut us down. You're not coming in. You don't have an appointment. You're not coming in. This is a family dispute. We don't have anybody here to see you. There's nobody here to see you. You're gonna have to leave. And he was angry. He was upset. He was doing his job, but he hadn't met my wife Susan. So here Susan got out a Canadian passport, and she said, I'm a Canadian citizen. Are you a Canadian citizen? I am a Canadian citizen. These are all Canadian citizens, and we need help. Do you understand? We need help. He won't give. And Susan said, what time you close today? And he said, I can't tell you that. He said, I'm going to stand here until you close today, until somebody see me. If you don't see me today, I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to stand here until somebody see me. Here I am. I was backing up a few steps. It's just very uncomfortable. For me, very uncomfortable, right? Well, he gave. The security guard he went in, talked to somebody, and then he came out and he said, only two of you. Two of you could go in. So Susan and my sister went in. The rest of you, you have to leave. You gotta have to leave. So we left. And we thought, my brother and I thought, the longer this meeting goes, the better it is. So half hour, then it's an hour, then it's an hour and a half. We were praying, we were waiting for them, we were praying. And then they came out and they believed Susan. Now think about this. They had no proof. They had no police report. It was just this crazy lady. And another lady with dementia came in and told them the story. And initially the officer told Susan, can't help you. But obviously she hadn't met Susan either. So she wouldn't leave. And finally that officer, her name was Sandy, believed her. But honestly, they had no proof, right? It was just the words, their words, though she believed them, and gave them these documents to fill out, and we ran all kinds of problems. They just came in, they gave us one written document to fill out, that's perfect. They gave us two digital. One of the digital we could open, the other digital, it needed a special program. So here we are, couldn't open it. We couldn't open it. I had a cousin in Hong Kong working in marketing. We thought marketing got all the tools. We contacted him, he couldn't open it. Then he said, oh, I know a tech guy in Shanghai, in China. He said he might be. So he sent it to Shanghai, and Shanghai opened it, then scanned it back to him, he scanned it back to us. So we're filling out all these forms, so we went back there Thursday, and then at Thursday, Susan then and my sister went there, and the security guard kind of know who they are. Yeah. And they went in, and interesting enough, their staff there say the entire embassy know who you are. we are all working to make this happen. And so they sat down and they interviewed the officer. There are two references. You need two people that know who you are. She called the first one, she's not there. She came back and called the second one, and my sister looked at her and said, I don't know this person. Susan, I can't imagine what it would have been. Susan said, no, you know this person. Remember we put her name down, you know this? No, I don't know this person, right? And Susan was trying to convince the officer, look, she had dementia, right? But the officer said to her, Susan, the applicant tells me she doesn't know the reference that I'm supposed to be calling. So the incredible thing is they let them coming out, back in, come out, back in. We had to sort through the contact list to find, and then they go back in, they call, they come in. It is incredible that was happening. So finally they got all set, and then they said, Thursday now, we will push, normally it takes 5 days, but we're gonna push to get it done Monday. But we can approve it, has to go to Ottawa. So we waited and we waited. Friday came, nothing. Monday came, nothing. Monday night, Monday afternoon, nothing. Well, it turned out that my sister, it turned out the phone. We told her not to turn on the phone, but she turned on the phone. Because her husband calling to harass her, so she turned the phone on. Well, there was a message, and the passport was ready. This temporary passport was ready. So we went Tuesday morning, pick it up. But now, the whole thing is how do we all get on the same flight? Because now we had to all leave. I couldn't leave my mom there because her husband had threatened my mom. So everybody got to leave. So all five of us have to get on the same plane. And we were able to do that. So then we booked for Thursday morning. So now it's radio silence, right? We cannot let our husband know. Doesn't matter what, we cannot let our husband know. And we were able to get on the plane and go through the custom officer, oh my word. That was, I remember just checking in because it just half the story, they're just checking in. Susan and I checked in first and we wait for them, and then they show up. They had 8 suitcases. I still remember looking at them coming out, 8 suitcases. They won't take them, like they won't take all their suitcases. And so we went out to check in, and I thought maybe we'll just pay all pound of money. They'll take them all, right? They took them all without any charge. There was, You know that commercial, IKEA commercial? Where the lady had all the bags coming out because such a deal, she think they made a mistake. She yelled at her husband, "Start the car." Oh, that's exactly, start the car. So I tell Susan, get out, let's get out. Let's get out of the car. Everybody leave before they realize this is a mistake. So they told us, and go through custom immigration we knew we were going to run into a problem, and then on the plane, and my sister was getting lost, just going to the bathroom, coming back to the seat. But after 16 hours, came back, then my whole thought was, how do I get 8 suitcases back to their place? I had a little sedan, like I wouldn't be able. So I asked my brother, well, I think they bring a van, I think something, I don't know, man. We got to the airport, and my brother Simon and Suzanne, the two of them, brought each an SUV. And it was like God, that's when I saw Suzanne and I broke down. The first time I cried the entire trip, and I sobbed on her arm. Because that's the time you kind of, we're here, like we're saved. And we stop and we pray. It's just a prayer of thanksgiving, right? And a journey of faith. I'm telling you, looking back now, the first thing that I saw, God has a plan. In hindsight, God has a plan. I just didn't see it. We didn't see the plan. And I was stressed, I was worried. I have never been so worried in my life for my sister, life and death. Because at that lawyer's office that Monday, after I heard the abuse and after I seen how she behaved, I knew if she didn't come, she would not have survived. He would have caused her death, one way and another. Had to get her out. But how? No passport, no. How? But God has a plan. Think about Joseph and Genesis. Think about what happened to Joseph. Like the life of Joseph, my goodness. He was loved by his father, but he got sold by his brother. At least they didn't kill him, they're going to kill him. And then they sold him, and he got high and then went into jail and then got high. So his life was going crazy. And then when he saw his brothers, they showed up to ask him for food. And of course, he fought within himself, right? Revenge. He played tricks on them. He made it difficult for them. And then, in the end, he said, don't be worried. I now know. I know it's not you, but it was God. God sent me here before you. God sent me before you so that there's a purpose. The purpose is this famine so I can save lives. I can save your lives. The great deliverance. See, in hindsight, he saw the whole thing played out. And consider Peter in Acts. He was having a prayer, went in a trance, and he was hungry. Then all of a sudden he saw these sheets coming down with unclean animal, and a voice telling him to get up and kill and eat. No, I would never do that. What was that all about? And then someone came up and said, hey, Peter, we've been called. You're going to have to come with us. Then Peter began to speak. And he saw the Holy Spirit descending on Gentiles. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism. In hindsight, he now realized God has a plan. God has a plan. And I look back now in my whole trip in hindsight, it's all the tiny little details. You will not believe God's plan. I didn't believe. We want to look at all this. Some of the elements that he put in place had been in place for years. Years, I didn't know. Let me show them to you. I can't put them all up here, but I'll just show you a few of them. We booked the same airline. It's as silly as it sounds. We were all going different airlines. We were all going different times. Susan and I are flying Air Canada. They were flying Cathay Pacific at different times. At the very last minute, because Susan and I didn't want to go fly direct 16 hours in a plane. I mean, last time I did that, I almost opened the door in the plane halfway open the ocean. Oh, you go crazy, 16 hours, right? I said, no, we're gonna have to take a stop in Vancouver. Let's do Air Canada. Last minute, we decided, let's just go to Cathay Pacific. If we hadn't done that, there is absolutely no way all 5 of us could have come back at the same plane. So we booked Cathay Pacific. Haven't flown them for 30 years, but we did that time. I have no idea why. We pack extra medication. It's not like me. When I do my packing, I count the days and it ends right there. I do not pack one extra pill. I do not take one extra pair of underwear. I do not take an extra, I just packed what I exactly need. This trip, I packed for 2 weeks of medication for 10 days. So did Susan. Insanity, right? But we had to extend our trip till 2 weeks. So I got on medication for 2 weeks. The case officer and the whole embassy and the security guard. I mean, the security guard, he could have very much just called the cops. That would be the end of that story. Or it would be gone, right? Why did he give, actually, he told Susan, he said, oh, I didn't do my job. I'm in big trouble. I let you in. I didn't do my job. And Susan kept consoling him. Don't worry. No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, right? And the case officer looked at my sister and said to her, you are so fortunate that you have a sister-in-law that loves you so much. Think about all the other people that are abused, have nowhere to go, no way out, right? She had Susan. Susan coming. She wasn't going to come, right? She was just going to come. She thought she was the extra, right? But she was going to support me, but she was instrumental in the trip, just like all of us. The guy in Shanghai, you know, they probably didn't think that it was going to be a part of God's plan. But the guy in Shanghai, without him, I wouldn't be able to convert all these documents. So we can do it. The check-in staff at the airport, I bet you she didn't know she was part of God's plan that day to allow suitcases that come onto the plane, right? The immigration and custom officer, it was like Peter walking out of jail, the gate just opened. Those immigration officers, they were just falling like bowling pins as we walked through. They were just waving us through one after another. Even though my sister had this yellow card that she's supposed to show people and haul off with secondary inspection, they just kept waving her on, and we were all kind of follow through. Susan and I said, no, we had to go separate because when she get pulled over, I don't want to get pulled over with her, right? Let's just go a little separate. We just went through. I don't know what ever happened to them. They all got in a trend. Simon and Suzanne with the SUV at the airport. How did they know? I mean, we're on the plane. How did they know? We got 8 suitcases, right? And her husband didn't find out. It was unbelievable. He didn't find out because we know he had access to her text and her email. But he didn't find out the whole time. He was suspicious, but he didn't know. God has a plan. And the one I didn't even put on here that I say in working with for years, my cousin was a police officer, but he retired 10 years ago. But because he was a police officer, he was able to help us to file a police report without investigation, so that in case her husband come after us later, we have a record. Who knew? Who knew God has a plan? But looking back, God has a plan in hindsight. It's good. But to believe in the beginning that God had a plan. I can confess to you, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. When I went there, it was to go look for long-term care, and then when everything fell apart, when I hit the wall at Tuesday, I was lost. I was lost. Nothing to say. I didn't see it. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. But think about, that's not faith. Think about the Thomas, that declaration, my Lord and my God. That's not faith, though. It's not a declaration of faith. Jesus was standing in front of him when he made that declaration. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Think Abraham. When God appeared to Abraham and say, hey, you're going to be this. And he said, no, Eliezer from Damascus, my servant, he's going to inherit my estate, not me, because I have no child. When God first appeared, he was in his 80s and Sarah's in her 70s. And Paul in Romans chapter 4, he talked about his body was good as dead and Sarah was barren. And yet he took him outside. He said, look at the stars. You can't count them. And he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And Abraham believed. Think about that. He believed against all hope. He believed. He believed that God had a plan before he saw any of that. As a matter of fact, it's impossible. Isaac born when he was 100 and Sarah was 90. Through this trip, I had a lot to learn about my faith. I know I'm not there. And I need to be there. We need to be there. Believing that God has a plan before it happened and trusting him to make it happen. And the last thing I share with you, the power of prayer. I wish that you were all with us. We were praying everywhere. We're praying in the mall, we're praying in lobbies, we're praying in restaurants, we're praying in airport, we were just praying. And many of you were praying with us. We share with the elders and the deacons, the evangelists, and then some of the things of the challenges we're facing, and we're asking for prayers, and you are praying for us. But all we ask is radio silence, right? You can't share in the social media because of we just want to keep things under wrap as much as we can. And I know my brother's churches were praying, my mom's church they were praying, my cousin and their churches were praying. Everyone were praying. And it was just felt like we were in the middle of this miracle unfolding. It's just unbelievable feeling when we saw all these things are happening in front of us. And the power of your prayer just flows right through. We underestimate the power of prayer. We talk about it. Consider what the persistent widow that Jesus said, right? Even the judges don't care about people of God. He would do it for her. Think about how much your Father would do it for you. And James said, the prayer of a righteous man. The prayer of a righteous man. Elijah prayed, it didn't rain. He prayed again, it rained. And he said, that's a key phrase. Elijah was a human being, even as we are, just like us. Can you imagine that this God of ours, just with his words, he spoke the universe into existence. Through his breath, he gave men life. That God is your Father. That God is who you're going to talk to. Can you imagine the power of prayer? And we underestimate the power of prayer. Brothers and sisters, I am just deeply grateful for the mercy and love and grace that our God has shown us through this trip. And I pray that our God is as gracious to all of us in our daily walk, so that he open our eyes as he revealed himself to us, that we learn something about him in every journey that you take. Thank you again for your time. Yeah. Let's stand and sing.